Welcome to Mac and Blue, where we introduce you to who is building Arizona, bringing you the people and businesses that shape the landscape around us. From economic development and developers, underwriters and lenders, architects and engineers, to the very builders and suppliers that bring it all together. Now let's join our hosts, Robert Johnson and JJ Levinsky, aka Mac and Blue.
Welcome to Mac and Blue. We should have started this show 30 minutes ago and then be ending it now because there's no way it's going to get any better. I'm Robert Johnson, Vice President of Business Development with Tory Contracting. Don't get nervous, Daryl. I'm not there yet. He's JJ Levinsky, President of Blue Wave General Contracting. What's happening?
Well, first of all, Daryl, welcome to the new studio.
Yes, it's amazing. Yeah, appreciate you guys for coming in today.
By the way, we added padded walls.
Did you get it? Did you get the text 30 minutes beforehand? Are you guys coming in? Yeah, usually we get here and he's like, man, what are you here so early for? Give me some time. So, yeah, this was, anyway, we missed you last week, Daryl. Karen did much better than you've ever done.
But as she's listening, so we can get
that's the only reason I'm saying it. Yeah. And when we're off the air, it goes back to you're the best. Okay? We are really glad this week to have Carla Magee and Jennifer Prows, both with MHG Commercial. Carla happens to be a host of Smashing Through Walls, a podcast that is also on Phoenix Business Radio. That's true. Is that correct, Daryl?
That is correct.
And you and I were able to be guests with her.
And we were, yes. And so, in all fairness, I mean, she is very interesting and has a lot to bring to the show. But it's her. This is it,
right?
But reciprocal. This is the way networking works. Right?
And we have to do damage control with how much you beat up.
No, we were obligated. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. No. It's
in the fine print. It says that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But big deal. We'll get through it.
Okay.
Thank you for coming, both of you.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, it's already been fun. It really has been a blast. Jennifer will never do a podcast again, ever.
After we're done with her.
Yeah, she'll have a twitch in her right eye.
It's starting, yes.
Let's start with you, Carla. Tell us a little bit about what you do with MHG, your podcast. Maybe a little bit, just give us a little capsule, and we'll move on to Jen after that and get to know her.
My general bio.
Let's get the bio and the vibe.
So I'm Carla Magee. I'm with MHG Commercial. I am not a native Arizonian because I noticed that people that are really like to lead with that. So I'll lead with that I'm not.
You're not the 22%.
You know what? That's a great, that is a fantastic observation because, man, I'm native Arizona. And that's like, oh, great. Okay, can we move on?
Vegan CrossFitters and
wow. Okay, go ahead.
Almost like Robert's shirt. Yeah. Vegan CrossFitter.
You didn't say it.
What?
Yeah. I wanted to say something so bad.
Hey, I went
neutral.
Boring.
He said
today.
CrossFitter.
Fitter.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I know what you were going.
Yeah, you know what I was going.
Not a native
Dresser.
Arizonian.
Yeah,
Oh, dress. Got it.
We're good.
Okay. I'm originally from Seattle. I grew up there, had my kids there, went to the University of Washington there, worked at all the proper Seattle things, Boeing, Microsoft, all the stuff.
Sure, the big Seattle stuff.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I hate cubicles. It's just not my jam.
Ever again.
Ever. So it was like a coffin. Between that and no sun, I was like, we're out of here. We got to go. So as I was reinventing myself, it was like, well, what did I like about being in a cubicle coffin? And what did I like about all my hobbies? And my hobbies were all real estate related. If they didn't involve my husband or kids. And
were you a realtor up there as well?
I wasn't. We mostly just kind of flipped properties or, just dabbled.
It was a hobby. Truly was a hobby.
It really was just kind of a side hustle.
And what was your husband doing?
My husband sells commercial industrial HVAC. He's a sales engineer for Mechanical Products Southwest.
Okay. So then there was the synergy there.
Right. So, yeah. So it just kind of goes hand in hand. And it still does. And so I came down here where the sun is and realized that I love commercial real estate over, say, residential. specifically income producing properties, multifamily, all that good fun stuff.
Sure.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
Very good.
So how did you get started podcasting?
I really like to talk. And
No.
I'm totally shocked.
it really surprises
Daryl just fell out of his
everybody.
chair, by the way.
Yeah, like,
you hide
Daryl,
that really
get up.
well.
You're okay.
Daryl, go ahead, Daryl. Hot mic.
So I don't know. I just wanted a platform to talk about real estate, to talk about business. I also wanted a platform for women in especially commercial real estate. And that's why it's called Smashing Through Walls, because I didn't just want to break the glass ceiling. I wanted to smash down the walls. However, as I went through my guest list, there are not very many women to invite.
Okay, so I was going to ask, is it predominantly a male industry? I mean,
Yep.
dominated industry? Really?
Dude fest, yes.
Seriously?
Yep.
I've never noticed.
Well, you're a guy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So when
exactly. It's a great point.
No,
yeah.
like really, as I made my guest list and I was like, we can invite this person, we can invite this person, we know this person. I'm like, wow, those are all.
You were like through
dudes.
3 shows and you were done. Yeah.
Yeah. So I try to invite women. Basically, what I'm trying to do is give them a seat at the table and give them an opportunity to have their voice heard in the industry as well.
Sure.
And so if I have to be the representative of women, then so be it.
Somebody has to.
Somebody's got to do it.
Jen?
Hi.
Hi. Thanks so
I'm
much
so
for being
thinking
here.
about
Like,
Now that
Carla
Carla
just
stole the
I know.
mic. You're like,
didn't mean to
No,
wake you
she
up.
can have it.
No. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do with MHG.
Yeah, so I am a commercial agent
Okay.
on the same team. I've been working with my mentor, Aaron, who started our team for, I think it's since 2015. And it kind of just happened into my lap. I knew Aaron through a coaching business I'd started, and I knew he was in real estate. So I said, hey, what are you doing in real estate? And he offered to mentor me in commercial real estate. I didn't know that was rare to have someone be so generous. And so I've been with Aaron and seen our team grow and double, and great people like Carla are with us now. And I've developed kind of a niche for myself in land development.
Oh, very cool.
we have
Yes.
nothing to talk about there.
Yeah. So, difference between residential and commercial. Like when you were talking about you like it so much better. What's the difference? You're just selling property, right?
Well, yeah. So if you're selling residential, you are talking about granite countertops, flooring options. And sometimes we can get into that in commercial too, but we mostly just talk about like, does this make sense? Does this location make sense? Does this financially make sense? It's just the conversation is a lot different. The emotions come off the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have thought that would be huge.
So it's not someone's dream home or where they're going to have their kids or where their child took their first steps, right? Like this is a business or likely will be a business or was a business. And then that's it. So like it either makes dollars and cents or it doesn't. And so that's where like the finance background comes in.
So how much of it is, and maybe this is a naive question, but the one never asked is the one that you forget, right? So on that, how much are you doing how much representation do you do on sale versus lease?
So our team is a team of about 15 people, and we dabble in both, right?
You do?
And sell by tenant and landlord rep. That said, we all kind of do it, but there are people on the team that specialize in that more than others.
Very cool. You mentioned you had started a coaching business?
I did.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that. Do you still do it at all?
So, no,
Okay.
I haven't been doing it for a while, but I think it probably comes into my work with our clients.
Okay.
Let's see. I was a stay-at-home mom for 11 years,
Okay.
and I, through that journey, lost 65 pounds. And
Kids are stressful.
I started, realizing it wasn't just external work, it's internal work, and had a coach who encouraged me to train and become a life coach. So that was one of the coolest things I've ever done. And I got to work with a local TV show who helped people lose weight. And that's kind of where it started.
I must say you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
65 pounds.
And how long have you kept it off, though, Jen?
It's
like
been
forever, right?
over 10 years, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah,
So,
that's really the bigger one of the
At
bunch.
first you see yourself and you're like, oh, who's that? Like you have to adjust. But now it's not as fresh in my mind.
Gotcha.
So, but it's a lot.
Yeah. So that's cool. Neat
Thanks
transition. And yeah, you're right. I guess that coaching, the whole thing just kind of plays into what what an interesting transition to get to have that opportunity come at you.
It really is.
Well, did you ever think about real estate, realtor, any of that?
We'd made money when we owned homes and sold them. That was about it. And I didn't realize I was going to be offered like my dream job to do things that I can't even, like, I can't believe I get to do what I do. And that's how it happened.
So she went from life coach to like being instrumental in the South Pier sale in Tempe. Like, how huge is that?
Yeah.
It was a $1 billion sale?
No, the sale wasn't. The total project will be over, $1.8 billion, I think, at this point. So there's a really incredible developer there doing a master plan community.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're big on the more land development stuff then.
Well, yeah,
that's
in our industry, we see it all the time.
Oh, that's what you do. I
kind of build more than I develop.
Yeah. Well, that's what I meant. But yeah, very, very neat. Okay. Back to the smashing through walls. We talked a little bit about to give women a seat at the table, to maybe change some of that focus there. I guess maybe this is just such a male thing to say. I just never realized that there was that much of a disparity in the industry.
Yeah.
Now, construction, I recognize it all the time. I just, what's funny in my mind, I'm thinking, especially on the real residential side, every picture, everything I see is a woman talking about residential real estate. I see it much more predominantly there. But after thinking about it, I see exactly what you're talking about.
Right. If you start looking through like LoopNet or anything else.
Yeah, it's kind of a good old boys network.
And a lot of dudes.
Yeah, very interesting. JJ?
So let's go down with the commercial real estate and with your podcast. What have been the hot topics the last few months with your guests?
Well, like my most listened to episodes, for example, are the new cannabis laws that have come in this last year. We've brokered some of those sales. So we had,
cannabis sales?
No.
Oh, I'm going, wow, that's a change.
Development.
No. Yes.
Property.
Yes.
So I had the Marijuana Industry Trade Association founder, Dimitri Downing, on there. That one's had like 3 times the amount of views as anything else I've done.
So take a tangent and talk about, give a summary of, is that just on the grow houses? Is that dispensaries? What is it about?
It's grow and dispensary, so you need a license in order to be able to do that. One of the things I found out in interviewing and chatting with him is our law was built differently than other states. In other states, kind of like liquor, right? If you find the property and it's properly zoned and you do all your due diligence, you get a weed license. Congratulations, thumbs up. That's not how it works here. It was on a lotto system, and there's only 168 licenses, period, the end, forever, goodbye. Yep.
In the entire state?
I had not realized that.
Yeah.
And that's it. They're I guess at some point they could increase the number, but as it is right now,
literally an act of Congress, though. Yeah. To increase that. And I was like, could you imagine if there was only 168 bars? Like the people around
where I grew up, where I grew up in the Midwest, that would not be.
There were only 168 people,
and they each had a bar.
Yeah, they each had a bar. That's an incredible statistic,
right? So they were like, one of the interesting things that came out of that was you can make a lot of money if you have a lot of money, right? Because the cost to do business and everything else was really high. Additionally, what we've seen on the real estate side is what we call the weed tax. So few properties qualify for cannabis use, whether it's grow or retailer or whatever, that they know that. They, meaning the property owners, their broker, whomever. And so what should be say $1 million property is now a $3 million property. And you can't get lending on that. You have to have cash.
Which that doesn't surprise me.
Right.
But that's not stopping the purchases.
At all.
No.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Wow. So
was there any other takeaways in that from a summary standpoint for the audience?
I think to me, those were the most interesting takeaways, and, that every state does it a little differently. It took a long time for Arizona to kind of adapt that and vote
Is
on it to pass.
Did they talk about, or did you guys talk about, is the grow facility up to par to supply the retail demand? I would think it's behind.
I don't know. So what happened was what was already medical use.
Okay, medical.
Right.
Yeah.
Was allowed to just kind of switch over. Right. So they have whatever products they already have coming, they already have a supply chain for that. It's all the new stuff, all the recreational new stuff that is going, I think we'll see a delay on. They had what they called a social equity drawing as well, lottery drawing. And that was really interesting. But again, I mean, so initially with the first lottery, those were $25,000 application, just an application.
Whether it was granted or not. So, and it was non-refundable. So $25,000 per application. So then take a group of people who have been unjustly put in our jail system or whatever, right? And tell them that they need $25,000 to qualify for this social equity license. And that doesn't sound very equitable, does it?
Interesting.
Yeah. It's all fascinating.
It is. After the 166, can they sell their license to another individual?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how somebody else could get into
Right.
it. You could sell yours and go to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. How about land development? What's the most interesting, or is the most interesting the one that you just mentioned?
Yeah, I would say that was the most interesting. And I think I got 1 in a million education going through that process. The land, when people drive by, they say, like, why is this here? Why has no one built it yet? And it's actually a pretty complex history on the property.
How long have you been involved in the transaction? How long does that kind of a transaction take?
Yeah, that's a slow burn kind of a transaction. It took us,
JJ's super familiar.
I mean, we originally started looking for this developer in Arizona in 2017. And then started negotiating on that site in 2018, 2019. There's privately owned pieces and there's city-owned pieces. And what the city wants right there is pretty specific. So when we had the developer that's now there talk to us, he was thinking of different areas to work. But I saw what he'd done in Tacoma, Washington, which is about a mile of luxury development. And I just said, like, I know you're looking over here, but I think you have to look right here at the lake. And it's a special spot where it's fee simple, surrounded by city and
so it's
school
been
land.
It's been like a full-time job.
It's been
doing this one.
Yeah, it was. And I've always been curious about things, and my parents encouraged me to ask questions. So I guess that's the way I've learned, is just asking questions and really listening. That's been really how I've been able to do what I've done so far.
So you're obviously an East Coast girl?
No, I'm from
East
Utah.
Valley. I'm sorry,
yes,
East Valley. I said coast.
No,
yeah,
Utah. I grew up in Utah.
Yeah. Like, no, I'm not East Coast.
No.
I'm Utah.
I love the East Coast.
Yeah. Work
Yes,
mostly
I
East
work
Valley stuff.
Primarily in Tempe. I have a natural affinity for Tempe. And love what the city's doing. They're really gracious people at the city of Tempe. And so I've developed relationships and passion for
I guess we have to invite
community.
some sort of economic development director from Tempe on now.
Yeah, nice little follow-up. Yeah.
Wait, me first.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh, that's right. This is your cue. I forgot.
No.
I'm just teasing.
I know.
Real neat. I forgot what I was going to ask next. It's the whole weed thing got me going. I had a flashback to 1960. Wait, well,
So did I after
I wasn't
looking at your
born in
shirt.
I wasn't born in 1960, but yeah, go ahead.
All right, Carla, back to you then.
Mm-hmm.
What was the back to your podcast?
Yeah.
Next biggest highlight in the last few months?
The next biggest, because I don't pick favorites, we'll
Yeah.
just go by what's been most listened to. And the next one was having the economic director of Scottsdale on there. And
Rob?
Yes, Rob Millar.
Millar, yeah.
Yep. Nice guy. Had a lot of really interesting things to say about what the city's been doing and, how they're trying to address certain things. Most importantly, some of their civil servants, like police, fire, teachers. How do you make housing attainable and affordable in a city known for, luxury when you still have to have teachers? And then he both of his daughters are also teachers, so it's also something that he holds dear to his heart. And I learned in that episode that the schools can build housing on their property.
They can.
Yeah. I was like,
just in Scottsdale?
No, in all of the Dales, all of the cities.
A lot of them. We've, because most of you know that we do build schools under Blue Wave moniker, and one of the things is the same thing. They're starting to look at, well, if we develop a little bit more and do more of a mixed use development, can we first of all attract, secondly retain those teacher bases, because we all know, just like every industry right now, you can't find anybody.
Right.
And teaching's even maybe worse than others.
Oh.
So that is one of the reasons why they're doing it.
Yeah. How cool. Let's take a break for commercial, and we'll be right back.
Tory Contracting, your full-service Division 9 contractor. Tory Contracting operates with a smaller, hands-on team. This cohesive structure results in superior workmanship and economical solutions. We deliver projects with unsurpassed commitment to quality and stewardship of budget. Tory Contracting, small enough to listen, big enough to deliver.
So they can build multi-housing and house teachers on school property.
So to speak. I mean, you still have to get through P&Z and make sure that it works. But imagine, like, I can think of one campus that we looked at doing a remodel on, where it was expand the school environment, but then over here it had a pre-existing zoning condition where they had, I would call, dilapidated housing. So in this case, instead of retrofitting it because it didn't pencil, they were just going to raise it, build new, but build like multi-story. So that way they, you could have like a condo type thing,
right? Where
if it was a teacher and it was a family environment where, it doesn't matter in today's society, 1, 2, 3, 4 mixed, whatever, that they could then just live right on campus.
I picture it like student housing, like on a campus, except for teachers.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see more of that.
I do.
Oh, it's got to come
creative.
At some point. Yeah. The cost of housing being what it is.
Well, and the educational model as well. When you look at, the year-round thing and, and the interactiveness of all of it, it's let's be honest, there's no longer a disconnect of it's this holistic thing anymore. I don't know how to put it in words, but I see the vision of it all, and it makes a lot of sense.
Interesting. So now you've mentioned, or I've read multifamily housing. Where are you seeing the most interest?
It really depends on what you're looking at, right? My favorite area is Mesa, but that's just because I love Mesa. And I think it has a lot going on right now and has so much diversity in its city, from, northeast all the way to the west, what they're doing with the branches of ASU that they're bringing in, and things like what JJ's doing with the surf park over there that's in Mesa. I mean, there is really some cool stuff going on in the city. So it's just my personal favorite.
A lot of single-family rental stuff. Do you get involved in the single-family rental stuff?
I do. I do, like, sometimes my investors will be like, I just purchased all this, but I want to do a portfolio of single-family rentals for whatever reason, or we will sell or buy portfolios of single-family. So it just depends.
That's huge with me right now. I mean, that's something that I'm hearing and reading about and seeing about. It's just continuing to explode, obviously, because housing being in the shape that it's in now. But
with the current supply and demand and inflation issues, are you seeing a difference of redevelopment over raw land? Is there an increase or decrease in either market because of that?
So
for commercial.
So
like let's put it in Jen's shoes.
Yeah.
Developer comes to her and says, "Hey, I want this." Are you just looking at raw land, or are you looking at redevelopment?
So initially, they're always looking for raw land.
Right.
Well, we're ready to break ground land. Of course, if it's a national developer, that's what they're looking for in Arizona. And now they'll say, or if there's a great location, but it's something else, send it anyway. We'll look at the numbers. The inventory is so low. There's so few urban properties left to do infill development.
Is that really becoming a thing? Is it really the amount, the inventory of urban property?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Is there any stats?
As far as I know, cities like Chandler are 95% built out.
I think
93. They only have
93.
7% left when they came and presented to us.
Wow.
And what about Scottsdale?
Tempe's even higher, isn't it?
Yeah,
Is
it's
it?
higher. And Scottsdale, as far as I understand, you think that there's a lot of land, but it's
All
not
state
Scottsdale.
owned
It's state and reservation.
Or
Mhm.
native, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
I
it
don't
looks
know.
spacious, but
Mhm.
it's not very
Well, most people don't
spacious.
realize that. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but from Pima out to the 101, that's still all technically owned by the Native Americans, and then they do the lease agreements back on those things,
Right.
like where
Yeah.
McKesson is and all those
Mhm.
strips in there that
Right.
we just had because we had Ryan,
Mhm.
we had Ryan Companies on what was a couple weeks ago,
Mhm.
Mm.
and they were the developer there on that piece. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was an arrangement on
Sure.
a land lease.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We get calls all the time that are like, hey, I want to develop right there. I see all this land. I know I can. And we're like, oh, sorry, bro.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be a problem. They don't just sell it off.
Yep.
Now, what about? Well, let's go down a different
Mhm.
question, because I keep hearing the rumors around town that there's plenty of Class A office space left, but the demand is pretty low on that. Whereas other like you were saying, flex space industrial, we can't build enough of it. But is there an inversion, and is there plenty of Class A office space available right now, or what are you guys seeing?
My personal opinion is that, yes, there is. There's still more development of it coming.
But more strategic.
I hope so. So, and it's kind of city specific, right? Like you see that more in like Scottsdale than you do in like, say, Mesa, for example.
Good point.
You don't see a lot of Class A office space being built over there. I feel like we're going to get to like one of 2 points. We're going to get to a point where people are like, hey, there's a lot of this and we need to start getting creative of what we're going to do with it. Or B, the people that are leasing it out call it, major national corporations who are paying tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars for these leases are going to be like, you guys have to go back to work because you can't work at home anymore because we have this huge 20-year lease on this property and it's just bleeding money.
I don't think you're seeing anything that isn't a secret. Okay,
Right,
let's
right.
be honest.
Yeah.
There's plenty of water cooler talk
Right.
around
And
in the
we
corporate environment right
we
now.
are seeing subleasing listings
There you go.
increase. Right. So people are trying to release it out, but like that's where we see inventory.
When you see those subleases, what kind of terms are you seeing? Not numbers, but more like time frame. Because what are people willing to give up on those subleases?
Like, well,
1 year, 2 year, 3 years.
Their ideal situation is to take over whatever lease is left.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Exactly. So then it's up to us to negotiate. Like, what does that look like for our tenant?
Jen, what are some of the challenges you're seeing over the last few months?
Well, just going back to Class A office,
Yeah.
I don't know what you're hearing, but I just started seeing some conversations about actually building housing in some of those office buildings. I'm not sure if you've seen any of that, but I think in some of the areas, we probably will see a little bit of that start. I'm not sure how much of it, but
Yeah.
as the inventory stays low, I think that might be a possibility.
Yeah, there's a project in downtown Phoenix on top of a parking garage.
Yep.
That they're doing 4 stories of multifamily.
Oh.
It had I want to say 6-story office building, and they're converting it all to multifamily.
Very cool.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds very cool and interesting.
Yeah, it's the first one that I've known about or heard about.
Again,
but I
it'll
mean,
get back to numbers, but if it
Right.
works in the long term, it depends on, again, you got the people you represent, whether it's a capital stack or a developer or whomever. They're not dumb. They're going to work the pro formas.
Right.
If it's good, they'll convert it. If not, well then.
Well,
so
and
be
I
it.
think the difference between like Phoenix and say Scottsdale, in Phoenix, you have much older buildings.
mhm.
Those leases have long expired. Nobody's releasing them, whereas in Scottsdale, these are all fairly new and have, say, newer leases on them, under 10 years. And so there's less opportunity for redevelopment right now, in my opinion, because the property owner is like, or I could just let you keep paying your lease.
Yeah, I was stunned. I want to say it was a couple of weeks ago, driving down the 101 in the East Valley, in the area that you were just talking about, and all of the vacant buildings adjacent to the 101 from Via de Ventura, all those down through there, large buildings that they were dark. There was like a one car in the parking lot kind of thing. I was just amazed. Is that really from people not going back to a workforce?
I think so. I mean, that's kind of what Rob Millar was saying, is that some of those just aren't ready for being occupied yet, depending on which ones you're talking about. And then some of them people are still working from home from the pandemic. I mean, you have guys like Elon Musk who are like, nope, go back to work. So it'll be really interesting to see over the next couple years what starts to happen between them having leases on those that are very expensive, on their books, and getting employees back into those buildings to start justifying them, whether that's on a flexible basis or whatever that looks like. But I think we'll start to see it.
Yeah,
again.
I'm not going to mention names. There's a large national company right behind our office. Their parking lot's been empty ever since COVID started, and I don't even want to know what they're paying for rent on their building. But they haven't taken down the signs. They keep it up. They mow it. They're still doing the maintenance. You and I, we all know they're paying their CAM costs. So it's got to be a pretty heavy burn to not have their employees sitting there.
Right. And it comes up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, comes up at quarterly meetings.
All right, but we back to Jen, though. We got sidetracked. You went
Yes.
down that one. I was asking you, specific to like what you do day in and day out.
Yep.
What challenges are you looking at? Do you have supply issues, demand issues, both? I mean, what are your challenges over the last few months?
Yeah. Fortunately, the issues and challenges I'm dealing with are that we've got a lot of national interests, larger scale developers looking in Arizona and Phoenix and Tempe and Tucson and saying, I need land, I need land, I need land. And typically what I'm working with is unlisted property or pocket listings. So I think overall it's an inventory issue, and the Siamese twin issue with the inventory issue is the price per unit land cost that developers are having to pay.
So when you do find the inventory,
When we do find it,
even if it
then we're at a point where it doesn't pencil to pay that much per unit for land.
Jen, why is it twice as much per square foot as it was a year ago?
Where do we begin?
Jen, can you take your commission down, Jen?
Yeah.
You heard how 2017 to 2022. That's 5 years of this woman waiting to get paid on one sale, and then people do things like ask us to reduce commission.
Oh, heavens! I'm sure. All the
and
time.
I'm like, I just worked for 5 years on that project. What? Yeah.
And I was saying that facetiously, but I know it cuts deep.
Yeah.
Well, it's no different than anybody that we have on this program. I mean,
they're asking you to cut your costs.
Cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned that I think that there was you have a team of 15 on yours. Now, why so small?
So that we can be Nordstrom and not Walmart.
You see it reflected in the service, I would think, that you're getting.
Pretty much. We can really take care of you and have a team of actual experts in what they're doing versus like the big companies. And we all knew who they are, so I won't throw anybody under the bus. But, when people come on new there to be mentored, their mentoring is cold calling. Let's start making calls. Just start picking up the phone. And that's not what we do. We start actually teaching them how to do this job and how to best serve our clients. And we facilitate that through a lot of relationships that we have that you cannot build when you're that large.
You like her Nordstrom thing? Can you tell where she's from?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely get it.
Yeah.
So commercial real estate was one of the things that you mentioned going on in the Valley. I mean, is it now getting hotter on the West Valley than it is in the East Valley?
Well, I don't know what you think, Jen, but I know residentially, the West Valley has turned into what is technically a buyer's market right now. However, when I've been looking for leases for a particular client, I can't find anything because there's no commercial properties even built over there yet.
Which is what they're doing. They're building everywhere, but they're either sold or leased before they've been built. So what about you? What do you think? What are you hearing, seeing?
I think there's some great growth areas on the west side of things. We're seeing interest in areas like Casa Grande because, the jobs and the manufacturing that's going to be there.
Maricopa.
And Maricopa was my next, subject I would bring up. I think that I saw that you had their economic development director on. I haven't listened to that podcast.
We've had quite a few.
Yeah, you have a lot of great ED. So...
You're seeing a consistent theme. So I don't think you're saying anything that all of us aren't there's no surprises here.
Nope.
When I think about, we had, whether it was Maricopa, Casa Grande, let's go out west to, Goodyear, Buckeye. We all know what's going on out there with, especially with all the industrial, the relation to California, the logistics we've talked about. I think, heck, even Josh, that was on from Ryan Companies, he said the same thing. They're building more out there because their Californian clients are,
right.
It's cheaper to go from Long Beach to here and then ship it back than it is to
the
deal
logistics
with,
is
to
not
deal with
interesting.
the Republic of California and their business stuff. So, yeah, it just, and then I think I just read something over the weekend out of Phoenix Business Journal that there was another something, let's go further down towards like Florence and Eloy and that area, taking over old farmland to, develop that, which that's that whole Casa Grande moving even more with the arterial, whether you have rail spur, highway access to the 8, back and forth from Texas to California. It just seems like that whole thing just keeps growing and growing and growing.
Right. Well, and the city of Apache Junction just came on my podcast, and we're talking about how they are promoting a vote that they have coming up to add 0.5 cent sales tax on items in Pinal County. So that one of the reasons is so they can create a highway and then eventually rail system that'll connect Tucson to the valley.
Well, actually, when we were guests on your deal, hadn't we just talked to, help me out, wasn't it the development group that was coming out to Far East AJ that was redeveloping that whole area around where the corner was? I think we briefly talked about that, Robert, too, where AJ was taking a pretty, I think a well-capitalized developer was coming in and doing a whole cleanup on that one end of town.
Yes.
Call it just a whole redevelopment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they came on last week or the week before and like really elaborated on a lot of that. And then that's the difference I'm seeing with the cities right now. And sometimes even the developers and everything, they're coming to us to facilitate our relationships and how we can help them. Like AJ's coming to us and saying, hey, this is what we're looking for in terms of commercial properties, in terms of what kind of, we've done surveys. We know what kind of shopping people want. We know what kind of dining they want. Do you have those relationships? And our answer is yes. And if we don't, then we'll figure out how.
So here's one that I just thought about to ask you guys because I don't play there. But in our world, because of the price increases and everything that's going on, you're seeing a lot of collaboration on what I would call the equity side. So in other words, developers and whatever are coming to, let's say me as a traditional GC or even a construction manager, hey, would you like to take an equity stake or play in this?
Right.
Now let's go back to what you were talking about with supply and demand. That if the west side, let's just go down this hypothetical thing. Let's say on the west side that it is turning back into more of a, you said, buyer's market on the residential side. Let's say on the commercial side that it went from a heavy seller's market down to more neutral, where it's 50-yard line. Are you getting asked to go back to the sellers at all and for more favorable terms? So are you getting more creative in your deal making is what my question is, not yet?
So like if we have things that are already under contract, then the answer is no.
Right, get that.
Right. But the answer is yes if they're out there looking and we are trying to all be creative together. Yeah.
Because you are fighting for, there's quite a few fighting for just a few pieces of inventory.
Right.
Yeah. Which makes it all more important to have a relationship and be relationship based. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's take a break. Be right back.
There comes a time when dreams become a reality, when you see your vision materialize into a true work of art. And the only way to get there is to choose a general contractor who shares that same vision and knows how to bring it to life. At Blue Wave, we aren't so big that we've forgotten where we've come from, and we aren't so small that we can't care for your projects regardless of their size. When your vision deserves safety, perfection, timeliness, and expertise in order to become a reality, trust Blue Wave to get it done right the first time.
So is that one of the reasons, and I would say this, we've answered it already, but MHG is so relationship based?
Yes. So you're taking the collaborative relationships between 15 people in the valley with all their different areas of expertise and all their different, skill sets, and then utilizing that for our clients.
Yeah, we kind of joked a little bit about the whole social, about networking right before we got on. But that is a big reason why we do podcasts.
Right.
Why we do these things is to have those conversations and build those relationships. I can only speak for JJ and myself, but when we have people on, it's very seldom that we ever talk about what we do. It's all about what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, and it has happened, and we haven't been doing this but 4 or 5 months, I get an email or a phone call back, hey, it's been a while. Thanks for letting us come on, but hey, could you help me with XYZ? Relationship is where it's all about. And these larger ones, the no names that we all know but we're not saying, it certainly is not relationship based.
No, it's all transaction based.
Yeah, it's all just first one there. It's like throwing meat in a pool of piranhas.
I had to visualize that for a second.
Cow.
Kind of reminded me of your shirt, but then I got over that.
Yeah.
Is his shirt
my shirt's kind of like cool
piranhas?
or piranhas, or I don't know. It's the chains and the hearts. It's confusing.
Yeah.
So you know the story behind, and he just totally failed today.
Yeah, I copped out.
But you know the story. We do the flashy, it was coats, and then, we've decided to do shirts. And then when we were on your podcast, everybody showed up with a nice flashy jacket on, and we just showed up normal. So, yeah.
You really upped your game today, is what
I did on purpose.
Well, I think.
And my wife, we sit and go through Amazon and pick stuff out, and we just laugh and laugh and laugh. And the harder we laugh, the more it means that's the shirt that we got to get.
I do need to up my game again, though.
Yeah, you'll get there. Yeah.
You need some pretty loud Blue Wave polos.
Well, my excuse was I didn't go buy dry cleaning for about 3 straight weeks to pick it up.
Yeah, and we would prefer you, don't wear a dirty one. What have we not talked about that we need to, Carla? Jen? Is there something that, just burning in your heart? You just got to get it out.
Your craw.
That's it. Got to get it out.
Commercial real estate. I don't know.
Yeah.
What questions do you have for us?
Well,
aside from being experts in your own field, what do you want to know?
The ones that have been pounding my mind are you still hearing the big Amazon? Are those people still coming and still looking for inventory? Has that quieted down?
I'm looking at Jen. Yeah,
that's slowed down.
It has.
We do have some flex industrial developers who are still looking for properties to build, but it's pretty quiet.
I know it's still happening. At least say it's still happening.
Yeah.
West Valley wise. I mean, I keep hearing that they're building another big one for this or another building for that. Yes, we are in school. Daryl's raised his hand.
We have a question from the audience.
Polite, Daryl.
Go ahead.
I have a question. Do GCs and real estate agents ever cross paths before something ever get for a deal?
All the time.
We could, if JJ would call us and ask us.
The answer is JJ goes yes all the time, and she's saying I've never had a phone call once. So,
well, full disclosure, they usually talk to you before they talk to me.
That's true.
Yeah.
So a typical Daryl, great question. So some of I would call their peer group, because you don't know everyone, even as connected as this valley is. So let's say it's a NAOP or someone like the big group that combines commercial real estate with developers and GCs. There isn't a week that goes by that someone in your fraternity or sorority doesn't call me and go, JJ, what is the current cost per square foot of that? Because we're dealing with X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Well, you're not going to like what I'm going to tell you because it went up 10% in the last week.
Oof.
They're going, oh, really? And then we're like, yeah. So the answer is yes, Daryl. And I think that is going on constantly in the valley. I mean, all the time between
and even us. I mean, but when we are in light gauge steel structures, but because we're such a big piece of the pro forma, that's why they're doing it, because they have to make it pencil before they can they can purchase that property. If it doesn't pencil with what they're trying to do, it won't go.
Well, I think another great example to what you're saying is, and not to belittle this, but let's take just a very industrial shell, like a distribution center, or like what you guys have been talking about, these big tilt projects that are going all over. Those are exactly what in your description, where we will go out to maybe 3 or 4 key subcontractor trade partner people. And a classic example right now is to beat the supply chain. So one is, okay, can we do the land? 2, what will it take to get the infrastructure done? Which, if there's offsite improvements or things like that. In other words, getting utilities, what we call wet and dry utilities in and out of that that facility, because sometimes that could be a year or two long process with entitlement and everything else. The next one is the structure itself, which, as you guys know, could either be like concrete tilt, a metal building, a hybrid of some kind, and that's where
the supply chain issues get.
And then after that, it gets a little bit more into the weeds, but I mean more like the macro weeds of, okay, can we get electrical equipment? Because right now, electrical equipment's over a year out everywhere. Even the APS and SRPs had trouble with getting transformers on the public, if you want to call that the public side, and then the private side getting SES and switchgear for those buildings. So great question, Daryl. And the answer is yes. And even more than you could possibly fathom how much commercial real estate and developers and general contractors are talking more and more and more. And then you also have to bring in what we call the A&E firms, architectural and engineering firms. They're part of it as well. So back to Carla's point, the collaboration and the teamwork is probably more organic than it's ever been.
Oh, I would certainly agree with that. I mean, especially right now with developers maybe that owned property, that their project penciled a year ago,
right?
that now it doesn't anymore because of inflation, lending, loan, whatever, all those things. So the people that are paying cash, it doesn't affect as bad as those that are out, going after lending. But I remember when it was 2017, 2018, the big crash, whenever it was in the housing stuff, or no, 08, 07, 08.
I was like,
yeah,
go back
thank you. Yeah,
another
farther.
decade.
Wow.
I think another thing, though, and this might offend some listeners and people, but let's just cut through the garbage and get right to the point. And the elephant on the table is, I don't care if Carla's at Carla Inc., Jen Inc., or whatever. The relationship is more than the name on the door.
Oh, absolutely.
And so post-COVID, when you see back to the networking relationships, where we kind of organically went down this conversation in the last few minutes, has been, I see the relationship outweighing the business relationship like 1,000 to 1, more so than it ever has. And so the loyalty of, if it's Blue Wave and Tory, that's gone. I mean, it's not that it's gone, but the relationship with Robert and JJ is through.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where I think what Jen and Carla can agree to is those people that are seeking you out are seeking you as your brand,
Right.
not your company brand.
Correct. Yeah. And we just we as a team just have this great synergy. So they know that even if you come to me for, say, land development, that's not really my specialty, but they know whoever I'm working with, that they can trust that because they're reaching out to me as a person, as Carla Magee, not just Carla with
people.
MH Commercial. Correct.
Yeah, and that's really happening an awful lot more than
Think of your role. Okay, you're the BD man. Be honest. How much of what you get in, like if you're tracking a CRM, is truly to Tory, and how much are you paying forward that increases your brand, but yet you'll never see anything on your bottom line towards that? I bet it's huge, because on me, I can tell you it's huge.
It's massive.
And you have to be careful of your time allocation, because you want to build the brand and do right by right, but then there's some days you're like, I still have to make money, and I have to I have to close on what I'm doing. I'd love to pay it forward to you, but it's got to be limited.
Right. 100%.
I'm sure we all struggle with that.
We do.
Yeah.
I mean, because I have 2 kids, I have a mortgage. They need things like
Which one's more important?
Depends on the
Don't
day.
answer that question.
Depends on the day. But they need to go to college. They need braces. They need a new bed that we just put together this weekend. Just stuff like that. Like my daughter and this bed, she just had to have it. And that I'm a little irritated about it because she's 9 and she still slept in my bed last night. And then I was mad because I was uncomfortable. And then I went and slept in her new bed. And now I'm tired.
Boy,
just saying.
These stories, it goes from generation.
I just blame it on Jen.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
She didn't life coach you well enough.
Apparently.
We haven't been coaching enough.
Nope. I coach my 9-year-old out.
I'm glad we got into that. The whole relationship thing, it really has changed a whole lot. I mean, we're all LinkedIn people. We get on LinkedIn, and now, there's people that are changing jobs or losing a job. They're not even getting another job, and they just keep doing the same thing they were doing before because they're still just, that conduit of introducing people to people. The guy that's on with us next week.
Oh, yeah.
That's what he talked about. He talked about, look, I don't make any money off the phone calls, but everybody knows You call me. If I don't have the answer, I know somebody that has the answer. And that is what eventually leads to.
But is it really new? Because how long is the saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know, been around, right?
No, that's excellent point.
It's not new, Carla.
Point.
I think it's being
revitalized
and utilized
I think
more.
Validated maybe is the way I look at it. Is we came out of the COVID thing. We came out of all the unique blessings that we had here in the Arizona workspace that we're lucky to.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the conversations we're having are not the conversations in other part of the country.
It's true.
They're the people that don't have work. We have
abundance.
We're having a lot of the discussions that parts of the country would love to have.
Right.
You know, why don't we have enough people? Why don't we have enough workers? Why don't we have enough supplies? That's all it was for me, was that validation piece of it's rekindled of how important it is. And then through what we're doing, and you know, like why you are on here today with us and vice versa, you know, our podcasts are that vehicle for exploration, for sharing, for all those kind of things. I mean, this isn't shameless self-promotion. It is a little bit, but hardly. That isn't why you did it. That isn't why we created this. We wanted to connect people so that the whole thing, that, you know, from a holistic manner got better.
No, and it's working.
Well, we think so. We hope so.
Well, if it wasn't, we would.
I mean, look at Daryl got new digs. I mean,
he's got a new office.
And I wonder how much of that falls on us.
I don't know.
I mean, you know, is that because of the shows are so so good, or does it have to do? No, I actually know what it's for, and it doesn't. I don't answer that.
We're messing with
Daryl's like, no, it doesn't have anything to do with you guys. You guys couldn't even be here, and it'd still be the same way.
That's right.
Okay, so how do people what's the best way for people to get a hold of both of you?
Both of us?
Well, let's start with you first.
Okay. Well, if you want to just get a hold of me, Carla Magee, you would go to Investment Real Estate AZ on Instagram. That is the best way to get a hold of me, to see all the content I put out, talk about real estate, finances, anything you do to become an investor, stay an investor, or work with investors.
And remind everyone of your podcast too.
Oh, that's right. And my podcast is Smashing Through Walls on Phoenix Business RadioX.
And do you have, I know it's all recorded, just like ours, do you have a live version or not?
No, I have it recorded and I put it on a YouTube channel.
There you go.
Yeah.
So everyone look for her on YouTube.
And that's in my bio on my Instagram.
It is.
Okay. Okay. And Jen, you?
So the best way to reach me is through LinkedIn. I'm not on social as much as Carla yet.
See, she said yet.
That's right.
There's hope.
One day.
You'll get there.
Maybe one day. LinkedIn, or actually just good old email, jen@mhgcommercial.com.
And then the best way to get a hold of us as a team is mhgcommercial.com.
Yeah, you've got to go there and check it out and learn more about these folks.
I was going to ask Jen, was there anything you wanted to talk more? We have a few minutes. Did you want to go down the life coach thing at all? Or is that just more of a hobby now?
Oh, I do know one. Go ahead. Answer his first.
Well, no, I wanted to get...
You're a mother. You're a mother, and you didn't talk about your kids yet.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah, see the face? I told you I'd beat you when I brought up the kids. You're like, oh, yeah, forget it, JJ. I don't care about it.
I have two kids. I have a 17-year-old. He's about to turn 18. He's a giant human. It's so weird.
Party at Jen's house tonight.
With the giant human.
And then I have a 10-year-old. So they're just at the heart of everything I do. And I was thinking, can I share something about your question, Daryl?
Sure.
I was thinking through, that's such an insightful question about us being connected to contractors. It's something that you have to learn, because some of my favorite clients are small business owners who have development brains. I have a client who bought some land. They buy land and know, like, oh, I'm going to build a building. I'm going to have my Taekwondo studio in one half. Then I'm going to rent out the other half. Like, it kind of makes sense to them. But then when you get into it, you realize how complex it is, how brave you have to be to do real estate development. And if you don't have contractors and subcontractors in your network as an agent and someone advising them, I can't, like, give them what they need to learn, or like make the introductions that will actually make the difference, so that they break ground, so they actually build that dream. So
well done. That's brilliant.
that's
I think we should just end it right there.
Yeah, I mean that was
Anything
like,
I say is just going to be
no, that was excellent. I'm glad you followed up on that. Thank you. Okay,
That's why we bring the smart people on, Robert.
That is why we bring the smart people on.
Because you and I,
yeah, we're going to actually have to have one of those. And one of these days, we're going to have one of these shows, and we're just going to bring Carla and Jen in, and we're just going to have that chat like we did before this thing started. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
We'd love
Thanks
to
for
have you
having
again
us.
at some point.
Yeah.
Take us out of here, Darryl. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to the Mac and Blue Show, brought to you by Tory Contracting and Blue Wave General Contracting. Be sure to subscribe to the Mac and Blue podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Follow Robert Johnson and JJ Levensky on LinkedIn and Instagram. And tune in live every Monday at 3 p.m. as we continue to introduce you to the people building Arizona. Walt Disney said, "You can dream, create, design, and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it requires people to make the dream a reality." Until next time, make it a great day.